Time and space, as revealed in the Urantia Book, are not merely physical dimensions, but profound realities that shape the experiential and evolutionary journey of all created beings. The Urantia Book indicates that even when we make our way to the final 7th stage of spirit existence, located in 1062.8, that our realization of meaning will only come close to understanding God the Supreme only. In the Urantia Book, there are beings that have no beginnings. Individuals who simply eventuated, having no creator, such as the Transcendentalers, located in 31.92. And of course, everything else that was created after Havona, or the central universe, which includes ourselves. God the Ultimate, rather, is not confined to such limitations like time and space. And it is unlikely that we will ever have a full understanding of the infinite nature of the Ultimate. This narrative explores their origin, nature, function, and transcendence across the levels of reality, from the finite to the absolute, that revolves around time and space. In the cosmology of the Urantia Book, time and space are not eternal constructs. They are creations born of the divine will and purpose of paradise deity, and they serve as scaffolding for the unfolding drama of experiential reality. So in other words, this once singular God chose to break themselves into 3 parts of eternal deities to escape personality absolutism. It's sort of like working for a company for, I don't know, forever? Being great at your job and doing the same things over and over. Time and space were consequently introduced as conditions of existence that pertain to the finite and the evolutionary creatures of the 7 superuniverses. It's a proverbial sandbox that God witnesses and even engages with their children. For those of you that are curious as to whether or not there are perfected beings out there most certainly is. Being mostly housed in a central universe that God themselves personally created, known as the central universe of Havona, found in 0.5. Consequently, on the eternal Isle of Paradise, which is most closely representative of heaven, we find that time and space are simply non-existent, found in 0.1.13. God the Supreme in and of itself is very much a creature, experiencing our lives through us during our lives in the flesh. However, he derives his personality and spirit from the Paradise Trinity, located in 0.8.10, along with spirit attributes. Reframing this for a second, God the Supreme very much uses the sacred triune like we use our thought adjusters. That directs and guides us. What seems to convolute the issue here is that he also appears to be self-actualizing through his extended family as well, of creator sons, ancients of days, and the 7 master spirits. Time is described as a sequential experience, a linear progression that allows for growth, change, and memory. It is the condition that makes the experience possible, for without time, there would be no before nor after, no cause and effect, and no development. Time grants the individual a sense of urgency, and a way to measure successes by reflecting on their past. Time is the arena in which personality unfolds. Their decisions are made, and where the consequences of those decisions that are experienced play out in a linear progression. It is the medium through which volition operates, and thus it is intimately tied to the moral and spiritual growth of all created beings. Time is not merely a measure of motion or a dimension of physics. It is a spiritual reality that reflects the unfolding of purpose and the actualization of potential. In contrast, for those who are sold on the predetermination with God and unwavering destiny, I would suspect that the entities that guide your ascension career have access to what you're going to do in the future at this present moment. A series of timeline potentials, if you will, that reflect the potential will and decisions that every human will make. As a brief example, I can go back a couple of years and remember one of several what I believe to be remarkable dreams that I once had. I woke up in the dream in a large white room with a series of white doors, with each door having a circular emblem on that door that was symbolic in some way. Then, a disembodied voice provided the only instruction of which I am paraphrasing.
You may choose any of the provided doors to traverse, with the exception of the door with the vessel.
Consequently, without remembering the actual door that I did walk through, I immediately walked inside the room that had a bathroom stall of all things, where my family was waiting for me, where I assisted two of my sons towards getting dressed. Now, as a therapist, I can think of at least a dozen reasons why a dream like this would be unremarkable, just a jarbled mess of both memories and, of course, affect. However, within the next 2 weeks, without any initiation on my part, I randomly received a job offer of a very similar vocational category related to my previous military service. The woman on the phone had looked me up on her own volition exclusively, and if not for that dream that I had weeks earlier, I would have likely taken that offered position, since of course it was my dream job that I so desperately wanted. However, if I had taken the job, there would have been no Change Talk LOC psychotherapy practice, and of course, no Change Talk LOC YouTube channel. I remember that it was a deep voice that sounded authoritarian, presenting themselves as though they had some type of authority over me, which was enough to dissuade me of one of my potential choices. Consequently, I believe that these doors represented potential timelines that I could have chosen, and such offerings being representative of the bridled free will that we all share. And as a side note, there very much was a vessel emblem on one of the doors that I could have certainly walked through. I would bet that even after such a directive, that this entity would still have allowed me to walk through this door with the vessel on it, since it was still an apparent choice. After this dream, I most certainly had a bunch of questions that I asked myself. Can a person exist in multiple timelines at once? Had I already traversed this timeline in another life? How can this entity have known that if I had taken my dream job, that it would have been a detriment to either myself or others? A similar story that you might enjoy might be my video on my angelic true story that you can find on my channel. This video describes another cautionary warning that I received that potentially saved my bacon. These instances represent two of several more instances in my life that suggest our future potential or even obstacles are already known by others. Space, similarly, is not just a physical expanse that has a linear beginning nor ending. It is a condition of separation, of extension, and of differentiation. It is a dynamic with infinite possibilities, perhaps suggesting a multiverse of possibilities, that creatures with insight stemming from beings that are related to the ultimate. Space allows for individuality, for the existence of distinct beings and objects. This distinctness is directed partially by apparent choice happenings along with differing environments. It is the stage upon which the universe is built, the canvas upon which the creator paints the manifold expressions of divinity. Space is not infinite in the absolute sense. It is bounded by the presence of paradise and conditioned by the gravitational control of the eternal isle of paradise. The Urantia Book describes space as originating from paradise and extending outward in concentric circles, each associated with different orders of reality and different stages of experiential development. In fact, special permission must be obtained first before an individual can traverse outside their superuniverse. Due to the jurisdictional master spirit or manifestation of God changing the natural and divine realities associated with their divine expression.
Each major purpose in superuniverse evolution will find fullest expression in only one of the 7 superuniverses. And therefore, does each superuniverse have a special function and a unique nature.
Found in 1514.1. Lucky for us, our superuniverse is spearheaded by Master Spirit number 7. Of the sacred triune function, most representative of the actualizing God the Supreme, of time and space, and functions as both his representative in the Supreme's absence, and presiding head of the Paradise Council of the 7 Master Spirits, found in 16:3.15. Together, time and space form the framework of the grand universe, the domain of the Supreme Being. They are the conditions under which finite reality operates, and they are the means by which the Supreme evolves. The Supreme Being is the personalization of the totality of experience of finite beings. And this experience is conditioned by time and space. As creatures evolve in time and traverse space, they contribute to the actualization of the Supreme. Thus, time and space are not merely passive dimensions. They are active participants in the divine drama, tools of deity used to bring about the perfection of the finite. The Urantia Book introduces a profound distinction between time, space, and eternity, infinitude. Paradise is the center of eternity and the source of all reality. But it is not located in space, nor does it exist in time, representing the hub of cosmic creation. However, we find in 11.0.1 that paradise is still certainly a material sphere, as well as a spiritual abode for all intelligent creation. There it signifies through this direct relation that all spiritual beings are in fact real. In fact, it is the same abode of the Universal Father that is the center for all physical gravity. Found in 9.3.1. We learn in 42.12.13 that
physical, spiritual, and mindal energies, as such and in their pure states, do not fully interact as actuals of the phenomenal universes. On Paradise, the 3 energies in Havona coordinated, while in the universe levels of finite activities, there must be encountered all ranges of material, mindal, and spiritual dominance. And from there on out, through the realms of time and space, whether a divine spirit reality is present, whenever a real spirit mind is functioning, there always tends to be produced a material or physical counterpart of that spirit reality.
As indicated in my previous video, as above, so below. This hermeneutical vantage point most certainly applies to this statement. It is the reason why the numbers 1, 3, 7, and 12 are considered spiritual numbers in material existence, and how the representation of the Trinity can be found from procreation to universe administration. So in other words, spirit reality serves as the foundation, design pattern for physical manifestation. Perhaps it should, since God, after all, is spirit. The Universal Father, the Eternal Son, and the Infinite Spirit are timeless and spaceless. Their actions, however, produce realities that are conditioned by time and space. The creation of the central universe of Havona is the first expression of this conditioning. A perfect universe that exists in a differing sense of time and evolutionary space. Beyond Havona lies the 7 superuniverses, including our own, which are evolutionary and experiential, and thus fully conditioned by time and space. In fact, the first beings to know time and space were solitary messengers. An order classification of beings that are lightning fast and were the children of the Infinite Spirit, who were all created at the same time, just after the creation of the 7 spirits of Havona, and having been existent for near eternity, found in 23.1.1. Outside of these timeless existential realms, we find evolutionary realms like our own. Time and space are essential to the growth of personality and the development of soul. Mortals begin their journey on material worlds, where time is measured by planetary rotation and aging, and space is experienced through physical movement. As they ascend, they pass through Urantia and spiritual stages, each with its own form of time and space becoming more and more spiritual. Urantia time is less rigid than material time, and spiritual time is even more fluid, reflecting the increasing freedom of the ascending personality. Eventually, time becomes a tool of consciousness rather than a constraint, and space eventually becomes a medium of unity rather than separation. The transcendence of time and space is a major theme in the Urantia Book. While finite beings begin their journey within time and space, they are destined to transcend these conditions. The Paradise Sons and other creatures that leave both perfection and that timeless state serve as a descending bridge in the worlds of time and space to fraternize with God's creatures. The Supreme Being, as a culmination of all finite experience, transcends time and space through the synthesis of experiential reality. The ultimate, a higher level of deity, operates in the realms of transcendental time and superspace, conditions that are beyond the comprehension of finite minds, but are nonetheless real. The absolute, the highest level of deity, is both existential and experiential, and is completely independent of time and space. The supreme, ultimate, and absolute most certainly operate in their own experiential capacity, much like we do. However, they are partially dependent on the power and personality associated with the achievements of the past Havona creators and trinities, serving as an eclectic reality found in 0.12.4. Nothing is left to waste. Every success, every failure, such as what we see in 2.3.4, that indicates
when the continued embrace of sin by the associated mind culminates in complete self-identification with iniquity, then upon the cessation of life, upon cosmic dissolution, such an isolated personality is absorbed into the oversoul of creation, becoming a part of the evolving experience of the Supreme Being.
Consequently, for those who do not live on in their ascension career, still most certainly live on experientially through God the Supreme. This tragedy can also be found in 117.4.2, which states,
"But if a creature rejects the eternal career, that part of the Supreme which was dependent on this creature's choice experiences, inescapable delay, a deprivation must be compensated by a substitutional or collateral experience. As for the personality of the non-survivor, it is absorbed in the oversoul of creation, becoming a part of the deity of the Supreme."
The journey of ascension is thus a journey through and beyond time and space. Our ascension to the eternal Isle of Paradise is representative of both an achievement of and escape from the fetters of such time-space realities. Mortals begin in the material worlds, where time and space are rigid and confining, building the will to act and the power to execute divine will. Through spiritual growth and experiential learning, we ascend to higher realms where time and space become more flexible and more integrated with consciousness. Eventually, we reach the levels of eternity, where time is no longer sequential and space is no longer separating. This journey is not merely a movement through dimensions, it is a transformation of being, a spiritual evolution that mirrors the growth of the Supreme. The Urantia Book also explores the relationship between time and eternity. Time is not the opposite of eternity. It is a fragment of it, a way for finite beings to experience the eternal. Eternity is not endless time. It is timeless, a state of being that encompasses all time. To make things a little bit more confusing for you, the Ancients of Days are designated that title since they existed previous to recorded personality records, found in 18.3.4. The Universal Father exists in eternity, and his actions produce time-conditioned realities. The Eternal Son and the Infinite Spirit also operate in eternity, but they participate in time through their manifestations in the universe. The thought adjusters, or fragments of the Universal Father, are eternal beings who indwell time-conditioned mortals, guiding them towards eternal destiny. Space, likewise, is not the opposite of infinity. It is a conditioned form of it. Infinity is the totality of all that can be, and space is the arena in which that totality is expressed. The eternal Isle of Paradise is the source and center of space, the birthplace and endpoint of all cosmic energies, and all space revolves around it. Space is not an empty void. It is filled with energy, matter, and spirit. Fun fact, the theory surrounding space not being an empty vacuum truly became popularized in the 1960s with Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson that accidentally discovered faint background noise with their radio telescope. Yep, for those of you that are good at fuzzy math, that's about a 5-year difference from the publication of the Urantia Book in 1955. That already stated in its pages in 41.6.1 that
space is pervaded by these wandering derelicts, especially sodium and calcium.
Space is structured and organized with levels and zones that reflect the divine plan. The 7 superuniverses are arranged in space according to divine architecture, and their rotation and expansion are part of the cosmic evolution and are most certainly not random. The control of time and space is a function of deity. The Universal Father transcends time and space, but he controls them through his coordinates. The Eternal Son and the Infinite Spirit. The Master Spirits, the Ancients of Days, and the other high beings administer time and space in the superuniverses. The Supreme being a synthesis of time-space experience, and the Ultimate coordinates transcendental realities. The Absolute encompasses all levels and integrates them into the totality of reality. Thusly, time and space are not chaotic or random. They are governed by divine intelligence and purpose. When it comes to all manners of energy, it is constantly transitioning from one state to another. In 41.2.5, we learn that
life has inherent capacity for the mobilization and the transmutation of universal energy. You are familiar with the action of vegetable life and transforming the material energy of life into the varied manifestations of the vegetable kingdom. You also know something of the method whereby this vegetative energy can be converted into the phenomena of animal activities. But you know practically nothing of the technique of the power directors and the physical controllers, who are endowed with the ability to mobilize, transform, directionize, and concentrate the manifold energies of space.
on top of these time-space manipulators, the Urantia Book also introduces the concept of time-space over-control. While time and space operate according to physical laws, they are subject to spiritual over-control, sometimes in the form of circuits. This means that spiritual realities can influence and transcend physical conditions. Prayer, worship, and spiritual insight can alter the experience of time and space. Revelation can compress time, and spiritual growth can accelerate development. The presence of God within the soul can transform the perception of time and the experience of space. This over-control is a function of the Supreme and is a sign of the integration of spirit and matter. In the final analysis, time and space are gifts of divinity, tools of growth, and conditions of experience. They are not limitations, but opportunities. That's ultimate goal. It's the slap that might designation on God Almighty. They allow for the unfolding of personality, the development of soul, and the actualization of potential. It is the cosmic adventure. Only being an adventure, might I add, due to the slight sense of experimental volition of its willed creatures, while still being under the perfect over-control of the creator of all things. Time and space are the framework within which the Supreme Being evolves and within which mortals ascend. They are not eternal, but they are the foundation in which leads to eternity. They are not infinite, but they express infinity. They are not divine, but they are used by divinity to bring about perfection. The Urantia Book's portrayal of time and space is thus deeply spiritual, profoundly philosophical, and richly cosmological. It invites the reader to see beyond the physical dimensions and to understand the deeper meanings of existence. It challenges the mind to grasp the vastness of creation and the purpose of life. It offers a vision of reality that is both majestic and intimate, both cosmic and personal. Time and space are not merely where we live. They are how we grow, how we learn, and how we become. Thank you again for watching today's video, your continued support, and I'll see you on the next one.